On a ridge just into New South Wales from the Victorian border is a lookout across to the Snowy Mountains and the site of Australia's first major civil aviation disaster. After distinguished service in the First World War, Charles Kingsford Smith and Charles Ulm went on to achieve a number of firsts together, including the first flights across the Pacific and the Tasman in their Fokker trimotor named the Southern Cross. They became national heroes. In 1929, they formed one of Australia's first commercial airlines, Australian National Airlines, with a fleet of 5 planes similar to the Southern Cross, flying between Australian capital cities. The Southern Cloud left Mascot Airport, later to be named Kingsford Smith Airport, at 8:30 on the morning of the 21st of March 1931, with another experienced World War I pilot, Captain Travis Shortridge, at the controls, assisted by Charles Donnell. Paying passengers filled 6 of the 8 available seats. At 9 o'clock, the Weather Bureau released the daily weather report. The previous days had been windy and rainy, but the new forecast was for severe conditions along the route, with driving rain and low cloud. However, this was less than 30 years after the Wright brothers managed to get a heavier-than-air machine to fly, and none of the planes in the fleet carried radios, although the Southern Cross had a 2-way radio for its cross-Pacific flight. There was no way for ANA headquarters to advise the pilot that he was heading into near cyclonic weather. The Southern Cloud never made it to Essendon in Melbourne. For 18 days, more than 20 Air Force and private planes conducted extensive searches. The other ANA planes, together with Kingsford Smith and Ulm, continued searching for weeks longer, with Smith lucky to survive a crash landing on a swampy ground on his way to the search. Up to 1,000 people joined widespread ground searches, but despite many purported sightings, the Southern Cloud's whereabouts remained a mystery. The official inquiry concluded that weather conditions had played a major role in the plane's disappearance, and recommended that radios be made compulsory on all passenger services, and aviation weather services and navigation aids be improved. Later that year, while carrying the first email from Australia to England, a sister plane, the Southern Sun, crashed on takeoff in heavy rain after refuelling in Malaysia. By the end of the year, ANA was bankrupt. To kickstart the economy after World War II, a grand scheme was devised to divert and dam many of the rivers in and around the Snowy Mountains. It would employ thousands, including 27-year-old Tom Sonter. On a day off in October 1958, he was bushwalking in rugged country near the Toomer River Valley when he noticed a piece of metal poking through the leaves. Tom had not been born at the time of the disaster, but back at camp he related his findings to others who remembered the plane going missing. Police and air safety officials were on the scene within days and confirmed it was the Southern Cloud. Wreckage was close to the direct route between Sydney and Melbourne and only about 100 metres below the crest, but the plane appeared to be heading northeast. Its top speed of 160 kilometres an hour was similar to reported maximum wind speeds at the time, and there was speculation that this may have contributed to the crash, or that visibility was so poor they had briefly become disoriented. Remains of 3 of the 8 on board were not found, and it seemed possible they may have survived the initial impact. The others are now buried in Cooma Cemetery. A plaque now marks the crash site, although only the dedicated are likely to find it.